So that's the course you probably saw. Every one of you saw it. So if you here for some reasons and you don't know how to find this course, the simplest way to do this is to just go to Google and type MLOps Zoomcamp, and you will end up on this page. So this is the main repo for the course, and yeah, I will tell you more details about that, exactly how to use this repo in 2 weeks when we launch the course. But for now, if you want to sign up, just click on this button here. There will be a form, and then you just put your details there, and that's all you need to do for now. Right, and then of course subscribe to our YouTube channel and maybe like the video. That's also important. Then more people will know about this course if you do that. And yeah, so I want to start today's session by giving you a short overview of what MLOps is, in my personal opinion. And based on that, we will also discuss what will be covered in the course. So, and I want to introduce MLOps by talking about a general flow, a general process for organizing a machine learning project. So we can think of this as a very simplified version, but we can think of this as a 3-step process. So there are 3 steps in the process. So that's the first step, second, third. So let me use different colors. So the first step is called a design step, or I would call this step a design step. So this step, typically when we only start a machine learning process, a machine learning project, we want to understand what exactly the problem we want to solve. What is the objective? What is the goal of this project? What is the objective for this project? How are we going to measure the success of our project? Like, how can we say that this project is successful or not? And at this step, we also need to understand if machine learning is the right solution for our problem. Once we do this, once we have an understanding of what kind of data we need, once we understand that indeed machine learning is the solution, we move to the second phase, which is called, or which I call a train phase. So on this phase, at this stage, we do what typically data scientists do. So we take the data set we have, and we try to build the best model we can. So we use things like logistic regression, XGBoost, whatever, I don't know, some neural networks, and we try to add feature engineering. We do a lot of experiments at this stage. And the goal here is to create a model. And so once we have the model, we go to the next stage, which I call operate. And at this stage, we actually take the model that was created at the previous stage, train phase, and we start using it. We start applying this model to make some decisions for our business or whatever. So here the goal is to actually start using the model. And at each of these stages, well, let's start with training. There are some things that we can do to make our life easier. For example, one of the, let's say, MLOps principles, or one of the tools, or one of the processes, is a thing called experiment tracking. Because at this stage, we need to do a lot of experiments. We need to try different features. We need to maybe do some pre-processing of the data set. We need to do some post-processing of the model output. We need to try different models. We need to try different hyperparameters of the model. There are many, many different things we can try. Maybe we can try to drop a feature. Maybe we can try to engineer a feature. And at the end, we need to understand what is the configuration that is best for our particular use case, right? So we need to have a way of tracking experiments. And we will talk about that in one of the modules. This is called experiment tracking. And we will see how to use tools like MLflow and weights and biases to actually do this, to organize the process of tracking experiments. Once we have once we know how organize our experiments, how to find what is the best model, we can because usually what data scientists create is a Jupyter notebook with the code in the cells. We need to execute these cells. Usually this is not super reproducible. So we need to turn this notebook into what we call a machine learning pipeline or a training pipeline. Training pipeline. So here the goal is to take the code we have and turn it into something that we can easily run on a new data, like on data from a different month, or retrain the model. So here the goal is to make it very easy to retrain a model. So we want to package whatever we have in a Jupyter notebook in an easily executable code. And for that we use tools like, in the course we will use Prefect, but other tools like general purpose registrator tools like Airflow, for example, or Duckster could be used, or specialized tools like Kubeflow pipelines or something else, right? So here the goal is to make sure that we have reproducibility. And this is something we'll cover in week 3 of the course. So we'll see how we can create these pipelines with Prefect. Once we have our training pipeline, usually the result of this training pipeline is an artifact, a model that we can deploy. So then what we do is we go to the deployment phase or to operate phase. And here the goal is to deploy a model. So here we need to understand what's the best way of deploying a model. Like, should we create a web service? Should we, like maybe if our model needs to run only once per day and not to be available all the time, maybe we should approach it as a batch process. Or maybe it's a streaming problem where we have like a stream of events and then we need to apply the model to each of the events. So this is something we will discuss in the next module. We will see how exactly to deploy the model we created previously and what are the different options here. So here in the course we will not use any specialized tools for that. But there are, of course, specialized tools like, for example, BentoML. There are ML platforms that you can, there are vendors that give you ML platforms that you can use. And there is something that actually connects these two steps, that connects the training step and the operate step. And we call it model registry. So this is the place where we keep all the models. So the training pipeline would put the artifact to this registry, and then we would use this for deployment. So this is what we use MLflow for, and we will also see in the course like how exactly we organize this connection between the training and operating phase. And last thing is, once the model is deployed, the story does not end there. We need to constantly monitor that the model is still performing. This is another model. So we will see how exactly organize, like how we can monitor that, how we can make sure that the models we deployed still operate well, still bring business value. And for that, we will use a tool called Evidently, but there are other tools like, for example, Arise and many other tools that you can also use for monitoring. So in the course, we will use Evidently. And also there will be one last module is about best practices, like how we organize the code and what exactly we do. And yeah, so this is like a general overview of the course and a machine learning project. So here, what I want to tell you is that we will focus on this part mostly. So we will not talk much about the design phase. We will mostly talk about train and operate phase, and we'll discuss all the best practices, all the processes that are required to be effective, to use machine learning effectively and to deploy machine learning to production with the tools and processes and best practices that we have. And collectively, the whole thing, this whole thing I refer to as MLOps. And this is exactly what we will cover in the course. So with that, I think I will stop explaining what we will cover, because I think there are many questions. So what I want to do now is I want to go to here and see all the questions. And now we will spend the rest of this time that we have answering your questions. So we have like 17 minutes. So let's see. What are the expected costs for AWS when we follow the course? So technically, you can do the entire course locally, then the cost would be 0. Then I would actually suggest to rent a small machine, a small instance for doing some things. And then the cost would be, like, I don't know, this instance could cost like 10 cents per hour. So you don't need it for a lot. Then it would be like, I don't know, $1-2 for the instances. Then in one of the modules, we use Kinesis or stream processing. Kinesis is a bit expensive, so it can also cost like maybe a couple of dollars per day, something like that. So maybe what I want to say, like, it shouldn't be too large, like $20-30 max, and like if you go crazy. One thing though that you should not forget to turn off the resources you use. So if you create an instance and you forget to turn it off, then at the end of the month you might get a bill, right? So be careful with that, and yeah, just be sure to double check that you turn off everything you don't need. Okay, what is the estimated number of hours required per week to complete the course? It really depends on your background. So I think it's reasonable to expect that you would spend around 10 to 15 hours per week. If you already have experience with engineering, with development, it should be easier for you because it's very engineering heavy course. So if you already know some tools, like, I don't know, if you're comfortable with command line, if you know Python, and you already know some machine learning, then for you, it might be like 5 hours maybe per week, right? But if some of these things for you are new, then maybe you might need to spend up to 20 hours per week. So it really depends. Yeah, I would go with around 10 hours per week and then see how you feel. We have some data from the previous course, which we should publish, I guess. Because previously, when you were submitting the form, we were asking you how much time you spent. This data is still there. We still have this data. We just need to clean it, anonymize, and then maybe we create a report for that. So let's see if we manage to do this before the course actually launches. So as for the prerequisites, if you go to our course repo, there is this nice list of prerequisites, right? So you should be comfortable with programming and with command line. So we assume that you already know Python, but if you don't, actually, it's not that difficult language, right? So you still have 2 weeks. You can find a tutorial and familiarize yourself with Python. It will be at the beginning difficult, of course, but then I think by the end of the course, you'll be fine. So we also expect that you know a bit of Docker, even though we will not use it extensively, but in some modules, we will not talk about Docker. So let's say if you want to learn about Docker, then we have other courses. We have links somewhere. So we cover Docker in these 2 courses, like in Machine Learning Zoomcamp and Data Engineering Zoomcamp. I would actually recommend going through Machine Learning Zoomcamp week 5. Yeah, this deployment week. So I would recommend going through this week prior to the course, because there we will talk about things like Docker, dependency management, and things like that. So I do recommend at least going through these 6 units before that. So if you don't know Docker yet. And yeah, it's useful if you already know machine learning. So if you don't, then it might be difficult for you. And then, of course, you can go through at least the first module of ML Zoomcamp. But yeah, if you go through second and third, it will be even better. And we also use XGBoost in the MLOps course, which is covered in this one. So if you don't know what XGBoost is, it's not the end of the world. You can still do the course, but I would recommend checking this module too before taking MLOps Zoomcamp. And then, yeah, we expect that you're okay with development. So that are the prerequisites. Are we going to use any cloud services for the MLOps throughout this course? Well, apart from what I mentioned, like creating an instance and like using Kinesis in AWS, not really. Although in the third module, in the Prefect module, in the orchestration module, so there is also an option to use Prefect Cloud, which we will not focus on, but at the end, so in this course, we try to focus as much as possible on open source. And when talking about Prefect, we will also cover mostly the open source version, but then at the end, we will also show you how to use Prefect Cloud. So that's another thing. But Prefect Cloud is free. So yeah. Is this course, does this course cover MLOps? So I don't really know what large language models ops is. I think it's like just a new buzzword. I don't know what it is and how exactly it is different from MLOps, but no, this course is not going to cover that. I still need to learn what this thing exactly is. Maybe next year, because it's apparently becoming a thing. Maybe next year we will need to include this. I don't know. Will there be new materials for the different sections, or we can just follow along the videos from the last year? So we will update 2 modules. We will update, most of the content will stay the same as last time. What will be different is, so this one stays the same. Module 2 largely stays the same, but we add a workshop with weights and biases, which is the alternative thing, like alternative tool for MLflow. Then in module 3, we will completely redo it because the content we have in this one uses a beta version of Prefect, which is rather outdated by now. You can still watch the course, you can still watch this material, but now the code doesn't really work. So there are some updates here. Like if you go inside, you will see some changes when it loads. Yeah, so there are some notes that tell you how you need to update the code to make it work. But we plan to completely rework this module. It's already in progress. So by the time we launch, by the time the third module is there, it will be a new set of videos. Then this model deployment will stay the same, and the model monitoring module will be a new one. So we will redo it. We will not use MongoDB this time, so there will be a Postgres backend. We will still use Evidently. We will still use Grafana for module 5. And then finally, the last module, module 6, will stay the same. We will not change or update anything there. Yeah, that's roughly it. Maybe I forgot something, but yeah, I think that's it. Yeah. So what is the market for this type of expertise? Which companies are interested in this development? Pretty much everyone who deals with machine learning is interested in this. So if you want to work, as an ML engineer or data scientist, it's quite useful to know these things, especially if you want to work as an ML engineer, because as an ML engineer, your main job will be productionizing the code that data scientists create, and you will work very closely with them, and you will take care of converting a notebook into training pipeline. You will take care of deployment, and you will take care of monitoring the whole thing. So I would say that it's this course is preparing you to be a very good machine learning engineer, provided that you, for example, already know some things from our machine learning Zoomcamp. Yeah, I guess I answered that. Yeah, is this course suitable for a data analyst, or it's more for data engineering? It's kind of neither. So it's, as I said, the main target audience are people who want to learn more about machine learning engineering. So if you're a data engineer who want to get into ML engineering, then that's a course for you. If you're a software engineer who want to get into ML engineering, yes, it's useful. If you're a data scientist and want to be more effective, or you work as a data engineer or as a machine learning engineer, but you don't know some of these things, this is a course for you. If you're a data analyst, not really. If you're a data engineer, yeah, for the main duties of a data engineer, this is not the course, because we have a data engineering course, which is quite different from this one. So you probably need that one. And do we have any lessons on implementation of A/B testing? No, we do not. Could be useful, but it's not possible to cover everything. So we wanted to cover the main things, I guess. Yeah, maybe we should think about A/B testing at some point, but not right now. Is there going to be a Zoomcamp in 2023? Yes, there will be. So I think it even says that there will be a cohort starting in September, and you can already sign up. So there is no date yet, but if you want to be notified when it starts, you can already sign up. But it will be in September. Yeah. Can you give sample projects that will be covered in the course? Yeah, so we will use New York taxi dataset, and the example we will use throughout the course is predicting the duration of a taxi trip. So this is what we will cover in the course. But then at the end of the course, you will need to complete the project. And if you want to see the projects from the previous iteration from the students who did this 1 year ago, you can go to our course repo, and then we have project. Here in the project, we have there were 2 attempts. So you can just go to this peer review assignment from attempt 1 and attempt 2, and you can see the projects from the previous students. So for example, this one was one of the projects. Yeah, you can see that this person used MLflow, make files, and all that. So yeah, it's quite interesting to see the projects from the students from the previous iteration, because many of these projects are really amazing. Is ML Zoomcamp a prerequisite for this? Yes, I would say it is. Again, if you did not do the course, you don't need to rush and do all 4 months in 2 weeks. It will be pretty difficult. I would suggest to focus on, so let me see. So I would, where's the, yeah, so take module 1 just to understand what machine learning is. Module 2 and module 3 will be useful too. Maybe just watch it to understand what's happening there. And module 5, right? And then a bit of module 6. Yeah, maybe not a bit, but you need to know what XGBoost is. You don't have to know what XGBoost is, but it will be useful because we use XGBoost in MLOps course. Apart from that, yeah, I think that's enough. You don't need to do more. And I would focus more on this module and on this one, right? And then also on this one, it's also helpful, depending on how much time you have. Will there be Kubeflow? No, there will be no Kubeflow. We are not going to use Kubeflow. For orchestrating, we are going to use Prefect in the course. Just today, we had a session, a workshop about Kubeflow. So you can go to our YouTube channel and see that session when it loads. So just 1 hour ago, we finished this open source MLOps on public cloud. So there, Andrea was showing how to set up Kubeflow on AWS. We will not cover this in the course, but yeah, if you're interested in Kubeflow, you can check it out. Will we use Google Cloud in this course? No, we will not use Google Cloud. We will use AWS, but you can actually use Google Cloud too. And I know some students last year did that. Office hours every week to follow up on exercises homework. So last year we did this every week, but yeah, it turned out that we use office hours mostly for answering your questions. And by now we collected a huge collection, like we collected a lot of questions from the students from the previous year. So we will just try to see how to make these questions available. So maybe this time we will not do office hours every week. For sure, we'll do one office hours session with weights and biases, and with the rest, probably the best idea to use Slack when you have questions. But we will figure this out, right? So there will be some office hours. And when it comes to homework, we usually record a video with homework solution. Besides the project, do we need to finish all the chapters? No. So to get a certificate at the end, all you need to do is finish the project. You don't need to do anything else. The new cohort materials will be available a few days before. Yeah, I don't think so. Because like we still need to prepare these materials, and 2 weeks is not enough to finish everything. And for example, when it comes to evidently, it's like week 5, right? So it's like 1 month after the course starts, which gives people from evidently a bit more time to actually develop the materials. So it will take more time than 2 weeks. Does doing ML, data engineering, and MLOps make you a full stack data scientist? Not quite. So you still need to have this product management component, because like when I talked about this thing, I only talked about this area, right? I did not talk about this, and this is very important. If you want to be a full stack data scientist, you also need to know how to design a machine learning project. Like what are the steps there? So yeah, it involves a lot of product management skills, like talking with stakeholders, collecting requirements, understanding how to transform this requirement, translate these requirements from like English to machine learning terms. We do not cover this in any of these courses, but it's pretty close. Just out of curiosity, is there a specific reason that we are not using AWS SageMaker for this MLOps course? I just wanted to show you more like open source solutions, I guess. Apart from Kinesis, everything else is open source. But I think with so here in the course, we give you the foundation. We just give you explain you the main concepts and explain some of the tools that you can use to implement these concepts. But then at the end, you go and work. And then at work, you might be using different tools, which is fine because you learn the concepts here. And these concepts, they easily translate between different tools. So here in this course, we will talk about creating a pipeline with Prefect, but then you can create a pipeline with SageMaker too. Or you can, deploy a model with SageMaker, right? Will it be effective to take data engineering course after MLOps? Oh, depends on your goals. Like if you want to be like this full stack data scientist, then yes. Otherwise, like data engineering and ML engineering are quite different things. So depending on what you want to do, right? I think like, yeah, if you want to work in machine learning, having some knowledge of like how to create data pipelines is useful. You don't need to take the entire data engineering course for that, but yeah, it will not hurt. So definitely do that if you want to be like a better data scientist. So I will answer last 2 questions. So I will answer this one. So the course is free. Link to the course is just go to Google and type MLOps Zoomcamp and you will find the course. Let's see this one. This will be the last question because we need to finish now. This was intended to be a short session, and unfortunately I need to go. I hope it was still useful. And like when it comes to the instructors, this one, I will talk about that on the course launch. So don't worry, you will know that. So last question is, are there any reference resources like ebooks, science blogs, scientific papers that you recommend for the audience to overview? No, not really. Like we include some of the resources in the course notes, but what I would recommend is maybe checking the notes from the students from the last course. So they did a pretty good job in summarizing everything and then finding extra resources and then including these extra resources there. Okay, I'll answer this one too, because it seems like people care about MLOps. We will consider, but we will not include it this year for sure, like 100% certain. Because I still don't understand what it is exactly, but I guess I'll need to learn that. So that's all from me. I hope you enjoyed this session. I hope I clarified some of the things to you. So right now you have 2 weeks, and what you can do now is maybe you can help us spread the word about the course. Maybe you can tell your friends about the course, your colleagues. You can form study groups, for example, at your work to keep yourself accountable to finish the course. And just maybe share the link to the course on LinkedIn, on Twitter. It will help us get more people to the course, and it will help us spread the knowledge. And also it will be just, it feels very nice when students share the link to the course. So if you want to help us, please do that. And with that, I want to finish. Thanks a lot for joining me today. And I'm really looking forward to starting the course with you in 2 weeks on the 15th of May. So see you soon. Goodbye.